Yo guys, it's Jay Beershank. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. We're here for another edition of book reviews. Today we have a great one. Before we get to it, give you a little bit of story about where we're at. We're in my house in the Renown province of Thailand in a place called Pua. I'm a teacher here. I know it's not the most exciting setting, but I figured, hey, I've never shot a book review in the house here, so why not shoot a book review in the house? So I'm shooting one in the house. I'm getting pretty behind on my books. I have about 3 or 4 to review that I think are good that I've read that I want to review. This particular one I've been sitting on for a while because I just didn't know what to say about it, and it's also a book I think you should sit with for a while. I've sat with it now for about 6 months, but you know, I would recommend taking even longer to read it and even longer kind of process and try to digest and then transmute it into something that is tangible and something that's pragmatic for you, because I think that the language used in this book might be a little bit hard and stoic. I mean, stoic is the correct word, but more than stoic, it's kind of like militant or maybe linear. But you know, I think that the essence of what the man is saying is very, very, very practical. I would consider myself someone who, in my heart of hearts, I'm pretty stoic, you know. I have gone through a lot of traumatic stuff in my life, and it's kind of turned me into the man I am now, obviously. And the man I am now, obviously, is someone who's just very steady, you know. And so when I read the book, I resonated with it a lot. I also have a little bit of a spiritual tinge to me, you know. I got that little other side of myself. It's a little more creative, a little more artistic, a little bit more trippy. But this one just really hit home on the solid, rock solid stuff, like, you know, don't let things shake you. Make sure you always have your mind thinking about things that matter instead of things that don't matter, like anything that's going to take away from your power. When I say take away from your power, I mean like debilitating thoughts, like, you know, worrying about this or that, or thinking about the future, thinking, oh, I'm not good enough for this. It's like, if you're gonna do something, if something is gonna happen and you're gonna have to act, then thinking you're not gonna perform is not gonna help you perform better. Maybe in some twisted way you can justify that and say that it helps you to worry, but I think that the only way to handle things in the highest degree is to take it as it comes. You know, I'm not trying to be tacky and say stay present, but it's like, you know, when it's time to get out on the stage and act, you get out on the stage and you act. You don't think about it, you don't think about it. Maybe you prepare, you know, you practice your lines, but once you're ready, you're ready. And once you're ready, you just forget about it and you show up and you shine. You don't blah, 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 blah. You don't let your mind take away from your, you know, if you're solid, you know when you're prepared. If you're not solid, then you never think you're prepared. And, you know, this book's about being solid for sure. And that book is Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor, 100 and something AD. He was a young philosopher, king kind of guy. I don't know the exact lineage and history of it, but I know that he was educated by philosophers, and there was really heavy emphasis on his philosophical learnings as a child. And I think he became, you know, emperor, I don't know what age, but in, you know, our day and age, very young, like in his early 20s, maybe even younger. He was a warrior, he was ruthless, and this book, Meditations, is basically like his journal. It was never meant to be a book, it was never meant to be published. I don't know, in this book, this is a great copy, it has a lot of introduction to it and talks a lot about, you know, I haven't read the introduction now in about 6 months, so I can't remember it clearly. But it talks a lot about the process of how this book came to be, and this book has gone through many, many revisions, obviously, because it's a very old book, so it's gone through a lot of hands, it's been seen by a lot of eyes, and people have tried to refine it or whatever, and I don't know if that's right or wrong, but either way, this book was definitely never meant to be a published book about meditation. It's not, you know, about meditation really per se. It's more like the ramblings of a man who is struggling with neuroticism. You might not agree if you read this book, but in the same way that I think of myself as a semi-stable stoic man, I also think of myself as a semi-neurotic stable stoic man. And what I mean by neurotic, if like the definition I believe of neurotic in the 5 personality traits is the ability to experience negative emotion, and what that stems from is thinking too much about unnecessary things. And the whole, one of Marcus's biggest things that he's always hitting home in on this book is, you know, keep your mind on track. Don't let your mind stray away and you know, take away from your power. Don't let your mind take you away from the moment. Don't let your mind he talks a lot about letting the mind do its job. The mind's job is to decipher information. It's to learn new information, put it into a category, and put that category into a useful place in your mind where you can access it when you need to. The job of the mind is not to deal with emotions and not to deal with silly little thoughts that are about this and about that. It's about processing information. Marcus was he was an emperor, he was a leader of men, he was a warrior, so he had to make hard decisions. He had to lead, men into their death, and he had to be ready to do that, and he had a lot of responsibility, so he couldn't let his mind stray away. So what he says is very harsh and very linear about making sure that you have your mind do its job. But you have to understand the kind of position he was in is one of very high stress, and one where that kind of, I guess, softness, you could say, could cost people their lives more than just his own. So I think that's something to take into consideration when you're reading this. He was an emperor, he was in a position of high authority, high responsibility, so it's the things he says, at least in this edition, who knows what the original translations of all this stuff are and what the original writings of his own were, but what he says is really concise. It's not lofty necessarily. There's a lot of talk about logos, and logos can just kind of be translated, or the way that I kind of translate it is basically like a universal intelligence, or like a animistic, I think that's the right word, animistic energy that is embodying all of life. Animism is a religion, or maybe not a religion, but a spiritual view, or religious view. That's basically like there's like this underlying communal energy source that gives life to every living thing. It's like everything has a soul, kind of, is animism. And logos, which he refers to in this book, I can't remember exactly what logos actually means in Greek. Is it Greek? Sorry, I don't know. But anyway, he talks about logos a lot, which I translated as animism, and so that's a little bit spiritual sometimes when he's talking about the logos, but still, like, he doesn't elaborate on the logos. He just uses the word logos, and it kind of just means like this wide array of everything that he could possibly group together and categorize as spirituality, or this kind of like religious spiritual view. So when he says that, it can mean so many things. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit off topic. So this book is formatted in just little excerpts, little excerpts, because it was just his journal, so he just has a bunch of little things. And I wouldn't even say, like, there's like different chapters that are called books. There's like, I think 12 of them, and I wouldn't really even say that they're put in a certain order. They're just really random, because like I said, it's just it's like if you were to look at my journal, it's just a bunch of random little tidbits about random things that he's thinking about at that time. And there's serious reoccurring themes, because he's a man that he's like anybody else. He has certain things that he's always trying to deal with and always trying to reconcile with, little parts of his mind that he's always trying to keep in check, or little ideas, or little tendencies, or little whatever your little things are that you try to keep in check. And he has his certain things. But the way that I would go about utilizing this tool, I would consider this book a tool. The way that I would go about utilizing this tool, and the way that I have gone about using this tool, is I read one or two excerpts, or maybe a page, and I pick one of the excerpts and I copy it into my journal, and then I read it a few times, and then I translate that excerpt into something that I think is pragmatic in my life. So let me give you an example. So here's one. Not to shrug off a friend's resentment, even unjustified resentment, but to try to put things right. To show your teachers ungrudging respect and your children unfeigned love. So then I would copy this down, and then I would translate it and write about a whole page on it, about what I think about it, what that means to me, what I think he meant, what I think each individual line means, and really elaborate on it. Why I think it's important to do that is because when I originally got this book, I read the whole thing in about a month, and then I looked and I was like, what the heck? I know this is a really classic, renowned piece of, writing, and I just blew through it in a month. Like, what did I really get out of it? And I got stuff out. I gathered some things out of it, of course. But it's like, okay, so now after a month, I just toss it. It's like, this book has been around for 2,000 years. Is it really, does it deserve that little respect and that little acknowledgement? I don't think so. So then I decided, okay, hold on to it, use it as a writing prompt, use it as a thought-provoking tool, and since then it's been really, 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 really invigorating, enlightening, and inspiring work, because not only is it like this stoic kind of linear, masculine, power, authoritarian discipline, but then you can also have that, and then you take it and you write about it on your own, and then when you write about it on your own, it opens up the other realm of the creative, imaginative, whatever you want it to be, kind of beauty of your own mind, and the beauty of present day life, and the beauty of the culture you've been raised in, and the beauty of the advancement of reality over 2,000 years, right? So I think that you have this side, and then when you write about it, you balance it with this side. So I think that writing about it and translating it into something that works for you is almost a necessity for this book. And I think if you don't do that, then you're almost, I don't want, is a strong word, but almost disrespecting the man who wrote it, because he didn't write it intending for you to go through his journal, So to just read this like he wrote a book is basically saying, wow, you're not that good of a writer, Marcus, because, well, he never wrote it to be a book, so don't read it like a book, Read it like a journal, and that's what I tried to do. I tried to take each part, translate it, understand it, make it my own. And since I did that, this book is awesome. I have a lot of the translations in a section of my YouTube channel called Journal Talks. During COVID here in Thailand, lasted like 2 months of the lockdown. I went through my journal and I read pages, and then I talked about them on the camera here. And there were a few of the meditations in there, so if you're interested, you could go check that out. I think Journal Talk 1 might be one that actually has a translation, so you can go check that out if you want. Either way, I'd recommend this book, but I would recommend it as a tool, not as something to read and entertain yourself with, but something to enable you to think and give you ideas and enable you to look deeper within yourself through Marcus's prompting. And yeah, I think he has a lot of really amazing things to say, and if you really listen and translate what he says, then you'll come to find that he is talking about some very solidified, empowering ideas that can really bring it home for you, especially if you're someone who is fairly neurotic, because sorry Marcus, I think he's neurotic, I really do, just in the way that he's always talking about getting his mind on track and whatnot. I think there's a hint of neuroticism there. Either way, thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy. Book was Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I'm Jay Beershang. Peace out from Pua, Thailand in the Nan province. Much love from me to you.